Okay, welcome to this week's Affiliates Ask Anything featured member interview. This week we've got Darren Blatt, aka D Money in the house. How we doing?
I'm doing great. Nice to be with you, Tyler. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So Darren is a really good guy. Everybody who's been to any affiliate summit conference knows Darren for throwing the best parties that the affiliate marketing industry has ever seen. Darren also has a very rich history in affiliate marketing, dating back well before 2000, right? So I think where I'd like to start is I'd like to just talk to you about the early days. So tell me how you got into the industry and what things were like back then.
Great. Okay, so I kind of accidentally fell into the industry. I think a lot of people nowadays, they study up on it and they know that they want to be a digital marketer, but we're talking like 96, 97 when I accidentally fell into it. I had a very successful alarm company that I was running. And one of my clients owned a company called Website Story, which invented the first third-party counter. So back then, if you needed to prove your traffic to somebody, they wouldn't believe your server stats. So there had to be some kind of a third party. And basically, this company called Website Story was that third party. They were the Nielsen rating of that era. And everybody used them. They had a site called the Adult 10,000. What I didn't realize when they made me a job offer, I left my partner with the alarm systems, and one of my clients made me an offer on the spot when I told them I was leaving. And I said, well, what do you guys do? Well, we're a technology company. I'm like, okay, technology sounds cool. Internet, wow, this booming field, right? So I went to work for them, and what I learned after my first day is that the people that were using the counter were all in the adult internet. At the time, there was no non-adult internet. It was just adult internet making money. Everything else was AOL, and we're on dial-ups, you know.
Yeah.
So I took the job being their marketing person, and we helped that company grow pretty big. And in that year that I worked for them, I picked a lot of brains, and I called everybody on our top list, which was called the Adult 10,000. So I went through number 1 through 10,000. Back then, I was new to the internet, so I put everything in binders. I actually printed out their servers. I would find out who their host was, and I took stats on like how much megabits per second they were pushing and how much traffic and how they were converting and what they did. And
Yeah.
what I learned was I would have a conversation with someone just like we're having a conversation now, and I'd ask them, well, what do you do and how are you getting your traffic? How do you make your money? They would teach me their secrets, and on the next phone call, I'd talk to somebody else and I'd pass their secrets along. And then I would talk to that guy maybe a week later, 2 weeks later. He'd be like, oh my God, I'm killing it right now. Thank you so much for that insight. You know, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be making 50 grand a week right now. And I'd
Yeah.
be like, whoa, really? So that's kind of how it all got started. So soon after I registered the name marketingfirm.com, I left that company after about a year, and I became marketingfirm.com, and I branded myself as D Money, which which became my alias for many years. It became my company name, and every event that I threw, it was D Money Presents the Players Ball. So I started the Players Ball as a great marketing vehicle. Back in the early days, I worked at concert clubs, so I figured out how to book artists and how to take care of them, and renting a venue and dealing with backline. It's not an easy thing to do,
Yeah.
but it's something I had some familiarity with, especially when I turned 18 and went to Ohio State. I was instantly thrown into the concert club scene. So I always thought, you know, these parties in the industry they're kind of lame. You know, everybody gathered around in a hotel room, all crowded, and it just didn't feel right. So I thought if I could throw that one big monster event where I put everybody at the trade show under one roof and create an atmosphere where a VIP is a real VIP. Like, I want to meet Snoop Dogg. Like,
Yeah.
that's the goal. Like, how do I get to meet Snoop Dogg and hang out with Snoop Dogg and have Snoop Dogg perform at my party? So that was the goal. And the very first party I threw, I had Long Beach Dub All Stars, which used to be Sublime, but then Brad died, and they had to rename the group Long Beach Dub All Stars. But what was interesting is nobody realized that was actually Sublime playing the very first Players Ball, and they did all the Sublime hits, which was awesome for me.
Yeah.
as a fan. But it was always a costume themed event. I didn't tell people that at the first one, which is kind of funny because my brother and I, he always helped co-host and help me promote. We dressed as pimps. I thought it was a fun pimp and hoe theme event back in the day, you know,
Yeah.
players ball. So we dressed up in these
Did you
pimp
guys
suits.
name the Players Ball after the Outcast song?
You know, I kind of did. I heard the song, and what I didn't realize is that that song they're talking about, I love it when you players ball. They're not even talking about an event. I always thought they were talking like about a hypothetical, like, or about an event, but it was more about I love it when you players ball. And to be honest, it was more of a I wanted to throw it for the players in the industry. So, you know,
Yeah. Well, hey,
ball,
they
bash.
actually just came out with this Netflix series called Hip Hop Evolution, and they were talking about. I was watching this last week. They were talking about Outkast in the video, and they were talking about that song, "The Players Ball." And I had no idea, you know, I didn't know this, and I don't know if any of the public really knew this before they released this, but basically the whole Players Ball thing with Outkast, you know, they basically wrote that song about what they were going to be doing on Christmas. So whatever they were doing, like Christmas Day, they were going to write a song about it. And I
That's
guess
funny.
in Atlanta, you know, kind of like in the hood and stuff, I guess there was this event every year on Christmas called like the Players Ball, where like all the hustlers and all the movers and shakers, you know,
Yeah.
in the Black community in Atlanta would all get together and, you know, do this event called the Players Ball, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't. It
Yeah.
was interesting to learn about that, and yeah, I don't know if that information was really like publicly available until like, you know, Netflix released it, but
Yeah.
interesting for sure.
Well, it's kind of a strange path I was on because in 2001, I had Snoop Dogg perform. I actually achieved the goal, you know, let's get to perform. So after my first 2 years of doing players balls, I did 2 players balls a year. And then finally it was time to get Snoop Dogg, and we paid him like $100,000 to perform our party at the Venetian. And
Yeah,
we had all the biggest players in the industry there at the time, all the innovators actually. I mean, that's the part that people don't understand. I think a lot of people had this stigma about adult internet, but what they don't realize is that it was the adult internet that paved the way, because if it wasn't for the adult side, you wouldn't have affiliate marketing,
yeah.
and
So
you wouldn't have
adult really was like the entire affiliate marketing ecosphere back then, right?
oh yeah, there was nothing else,
And
nothing. There was
how are people getting traffic? Because this is like, you know, we're talking like the late '90s here. I mean, Facebook definitely wasn't around yet. I mean, how are
yeah.
people actually like getting traffic to these offers?
Well, it's funny because the way it started, like now we have Facebook and we have all these different groups, but back in the day there was Why Not, which was the big portal, and also a big message board, and then it was GFY, which stands for, you could guess what it stands for. We'll keep it PG rated,
Yeah,
right? And anyway, that was where everybody would go and share their tips and tricks. And there was a lot of haters that used to be anonymous back then too, that would just call shots at, like they would call me out for being, you know, whatever. I mean, just there was way more hate back then. It was a
yeah,
crazy time, but in the process, people were sharing a lot of tips and tricks with each other. So we all learned as a community, I guess. And if you can imagine, if Facebook only had, you know, affiliates ask anything, we'll
yeah,
use that as an example. If that was the only group, then everybody would be sharing it all in one big group, and that's how it was with GFY basically. So everybody was sharing all that.
yeah,
But the way that people were getting their traffic back then, it was what's called top lists. I mean, when you're selling dirty pictures and videos, and keep in mind there was no video yet, so it was all like pictures at the very beginning. You'd have a top list, so people would post these galleries, and they'd have niched out, you know, top lists, and that's how they got their traffic. And a lot of people got their traffic from the top lists. So the higher they got ranked, they were actually getting the traffic from the top list.
yeah,
Back then, those top list sites would get about 100,000 to 300,000 uniques a day. So I would reach out and make some of these guys my buddies.
yeah,
One was called Adult Buffet. And I remember he would set me up with links in his top 10 posts every day. So I'd make these thumbnail galleries and I'd get his traffic. And then day two, that list would slide down a little further into the list. And then I'd have my second listing. So now I got 2 listings in his list. And then the third day I'd have 3 listings. So as I kept doing it, traffic every single day, But as I mentioned before, I picked a lot of brains, and I figured out that there were misspells that people could get, and I would have a lot of keywords. I was focused on the keywords of traffic,
Yeah.
and I would get all these crazy words and terms. Like I used to own all kinds of stuff. I mean, like Humboldt, like I would own that, and I'd get all these stoners and college kids looking to, I don't know, it was just weird.
Yeah.
Leased cars. I'd have all these good type-ins, but nothing did as well as like the keywords in adult. So I would
Yeah.
point it as an affiliate towards adult programs and make my money. And
Yeah.
as fate would have it, I actually picked a brain one day, and I, got together with this guy for lunch, and I taught him basically how to start an affiliate program. And he was just a photographer. I won't mention any names because he started a new life and became a born again. But
Yeah.
people listening, they might be able to know who this guy is. But eventually I became his consultant, and I taught him basically everything of how to do it. And he grew really big. I put a few good deals together, but I ended up owning his misspell, and I offered it to him. I'm like, hey, listen, your misspell is available. He said, if you do my marketing for me, I'll pay you 100% of whatever you get in joins if you just do my marketing. I'm like, great. So as he grew, I grew. He didn't have to pay me anything. I just had his misspell traffic. And at some point I was making crazy sick money and going to the beach every day. I lived in San Diego. So I would check my stats from, my laptop and be like, all right, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. That's a pretty cool lifestyle there. So you threw this event called the Players Ball, and now last year they released a New York Times best-selling book called none other than The Players Ball. So let's talk about that. So let's kind of rewind the clock again. It's all the way back to the Players Ball era, and there's two characters, right, that are now featured in the Players Ball book. We have Kremen and Steve Cohen, right? Gary Kremen.
Correct.
And
Yes.
Steve Cohen. So essentially, like I'll kind of give the viewers sort of a background. So essentially, around the time that Darren was throwing this event called the Players Ball, there was a big feud going on between this guy, Gary Kremen, who started Match.com, and this guy, Steve Cohen, who was essentially trying to claim that he was the one that owned Match.com. And there was basically this big feud going on around that time, and it would play out for a while. But basically what happened is they wrote a book about it. So somebody picked up the story, right?
Yep.
And now it's a New York Times bestseller. So let's talk about that.
Sure. So back around, I think somewhere in like 2004 to 2006, that range, Rolling Stone magazine has a writer named David Kushner. He also wrote for Wired magazine, and he did all their feature cultured pieces and anything tech related. So he had contacted my brother and I back then about wanting to do a story mainly about us, about the industry and what we do and the Players Ball. So we took a liking to David. He was a very cool guy. And we invited him to come out to Vegas and check out a trade show. So he comes out, checks out the trade show. We take him to the Players Ball, and he saw how things were. I mean, we had George Clinton probably that year perform with Digital Underground opening up, and it's a fun time. George Clinton is a legend, and with his big funk band, and imagine having 3,000 all industry people, pretty similar to the way that we do it now with the affiliate ball. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just we did it back then.
Yep.
And he got a chance to be introduced through my brother and I to all the players in the book. Gary Kremen, Ron Levy, who started the first big affiliate program called Cyber Erotica. He did well over $100 million a year back in the day and paid out the most money. Back then, the way it worked was if you had a pay site and you charged about $30 a month, people were paying out $40 as a flat fee roughly. So they'd actually go in their pocket a little bit and pay you more than that first month. And they would keep all the rebills. And then other people did a 50-50 rev share deal. And they probably didn't do as well as the people that were offering more money up front.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it works. So we took this author, David, around with us, and he met all the players. He met Gary Kremen, and he knew that there was a story there, but he wasn't sure what the story was. Or at least that's what he said.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to come back for more. So we're like, okay, great. Come back for another one. I think he came to one of the Florida conventions with us, and there was a big program called D-Cash back then. And they had a private boat party, and we took him to the big yacht, and he met D and all the guys.
Yeah.
And we had another opportunity to take him to another affiliate, or I'm sorry, players ball. So really he just kind of got to meet all the characters that way. And, he's a journalist, and he investigates his stories and kind of looked a little bit deeper about the whole sex.com. And what it was actually was sex.com back then, it wasn't considered property because it's virtual. How do you claim something that doesn't exist in physical matter is actually property? So it really paved the way for the rest of the internet to be able to declare something as property. But at the same time, it was very easy to have a domain stolen back then if somebody were to just hit up the registrar.
Yeah. So I said that he was trying to steal the match.com. That was wrong. It was the sex.com domain, right, that Gary Kremen owned, that basically this guy Steve Cohen was trying to hijack. Like he was trying to basically say that, no, you don't own this, I own this, and basically use these really like shady tactics.
But here's the interesting part of that is that Gary Kremen was just one of these innovators that didn't want to be in the adult biz. He created Match.com as his passion. So imagine, here's a guy who's such a genius, created the very first dating site and thought, okay, what are your interests? What are you looking for? And actually developed something really nice that paved the way for everybody else in the dating field. And at the same time, he owned all these keywords, which he figured any classified magazine, if you look at the keywords like autos and, whatever the interests were, cars, he would try to register the names. And at the time, it was free to register. So he just went crazy and started registering a bunch of names. So he thought, sex, why not sex? Yeah. But he never used it. So he didn't even start using it. He just held on to it as like an investment, like a property.
Right.
And while he was holding on to that name, it got stolen. And, Steve Cohen took the name and ended up making who knows how much, probably hundreds of millions of dollars for years.
But he did go to jail too for.
Yeah. Eventually Gary was able to get his name back, but unfortunately for Gary, it was at the tail end of the big boom with the adult explosion while this other guy made all that money, but he was able to get the mansion back from the guy that he had. And, he'll never have made quite what the guy made that stole it. And I actually met Steve. I met him at some of these trade shows, and he had a mustache. I don't know what that was. Sorry. I remember him very well. He was he always had the best business card. He would hand you this business card that was extra card stock, gold and black, and it said sex.com. I was like, wow, that's a nice, that's what I remember is how nice the perception was wow, this guy's with sex.com and he must be this big player. But he ended up being a big bullshit artist apparently.
And now they're coming out with a TV show, right?
Apparently so. So the book apparently got picked up as a TV show on TBS. I think I read online that they've announced it. I was sworn to secrecy for a while. I think they're really focused on the characters from the book, which would be probably Stephen Cohen and Gary Kremen, and who knows what the rest of the cast of characters are. But at least they named the book after my event because David Kushner always felt like the pinnacle of the story of the book really took place. The big scene was at the Players Ball with Snoop Dogg performing. And it talked about how this guy, Gary Kremen, who was not really a big player in the industry and didn't have the money like other people, finally got his name back. And when he got his name back, he shows up at the Players Ball where all the big players, including Ron Levy, were. And it's kind of like the hot blonde at a party. Everybody wanted to meet the hot blonde. So that was kind of like the height of the book. You have Snoop Dogg there, and he says, we're that, and he was actually quoted in the book as saying that. I had no idea when he was writing the book that he was going to title it The Players Ball, so I was very flattered. And then this last April, I threw a Players Ball again in honor of the book and to pay tribute to the past. So instead of it being an affiliate ball meetup, we took the name Players Ball again, and we threw a Players Ball, and it was fun. Tone Loc showed up, and we had Digital Underground perform like old times. Digital Underground was always like the house band. And by the way, it's pretty fun. I'll show you an old thing I used to give out at the trade shows. So my sponsors of the show back in the day and some good supporters would get these hockey jerseys. This
Yeah, that's pretty awesome,
here,
man. I would pay big bucks for one of those.
this is actually my brother's jersey that he left at my place. And I
Yeah.
put their names on the back. So when I had Snoop Dogg, I made him a jersey that said Snoop on the Snoop Dogg. And I would get all the different NHL, you know, here's one. I just like the color scheme.
Yeah. That's really cool.
E-money.
There you go.
Yeah, so I would give the artist this. I gave Exhibit one. I gave Digital Underground some. You know,
Hmm.
maybe one day I'll auction off one of these cool jerseys.
Yeah, that would be really sick. So let's talk about what you got coming up here. So we're getting towards the tail end of the call here. So let's talk about what you got coming up here next.
Okay, so every year in Vegas we go really big. I mean, we go big every time in New York as well. But this time in Vegas on January 28th, we're going to go back to Light Nightclub, which holds well over 3,000 people. We usually average around 2,500 to 3,000 people there.
Yeah.
It's all for the affiliate summit only. You have to be registered with the affiliate summit to get in. So if you're not registered already for the summit, you should start registering.
Hmm.
And what we do is we're like the Lollapalooza of parties, you know, so you could be a part of this monster event for a fraction of the cost. So, you know, last year we had T-Pain perform. He's big money. So, you know, you could get in on a party like that for as little as $1,000 and be able to be promoted, or you could spend a little bit more and get more promotion.
Yep.
But, you know, being a marketer myself, I've developed these parties as a way to not only get your exposure, but to actually see a return on your investment. So when we throw these parties, it's really about another channel of marketing. And I think that's what people don't get is it's
Hmm.
really a marketing vehicle like any other vehicle. We have newsletters that go out to over 40,000 past guests that have all signed up. We have the website. We do a lot on social media. And of course, during the party, we have the biggest screens in Vegas. So your logo is going to be seen in rotation with all the other sponsors. And I thank the sponsors. But now you also have a party perk. You actually have VIP pre-party passes. You have a reserved table in a roped area. So as far as entertaining your company and clients, usually people take them out for a dinner, and you could easily blow $2,000 on a dinner for 5 to 10 people. But, you know, with a sponsorship package for around a couple thousand with the ball, you get all this exposure and the reach, and you also have a way to entertain way more people all under one roof at your table in the rope section.
Yeah.
And people will remember that party forever. Nobody really I mean, look, I'm not going to knock other parties. I appreciate all the people that are throwing parties, by the way. But the thing is I want people to remember my party forever. I want them to look back 20 years later and say, remember that time we did that party and T-Pain performed, or Method Man jumped off the stage and
Yeah.
jammed with me? Like for me, those are the memories that last a lifetime, and that's what people will remember. So I feel like that's what separates an affiliate ball from just any party.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely never forget my first affiliate ball. So I think I started coming to the affiliate ball I think my first one was in like 2015, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think the first one I was at, Ludacris was a performer at it.
That was a good one. Yeah. That was actually the only time that I made the room VIP only. Usually the
Yeah,
room is available to anybody with a pass, but because that's a smaller venue at the Copacabana, I didn't want to overcrowd people, and a lot of people were complaining about being overcrowded in years
yeah,
past. So for that one, I thought, you know what, it's ludicrous. I'm paying a ton of money, probably the most I ever spent on an artist for the affiliate ball era.
yeah,
So I decided, why don't we just make it a little more VIP? So we put a big screen up on the upstairs level on the patio, and people got to watch it and hear it through the sound system. So everybody did get to see Ludacris, but I kept that one for the VIP only in the
yeah.
room. So
That
I'm
was a
sure.
pretty epic night. I'm definitely never going to forget that one. And, let's just say it wasn't easy to wake up that next morning at all.
Yeah, it's always hard. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the problem is we always crush the trade show floor the next day. That's why I like doing it the middle night instead of the first night, because
yeah,
if we throw it the first night, then people are wrecked for what I think is the best day of the trade show. You know, the
right.
first 2 days are the best, and then the third day it kind of dwindles anyway.
Yep. Yeah, awesome, man. So, yep. So, Affiliate Summit coming up in Vegas. Everybody needs to check it out and go to the affiliate ball, and definitely get in touch with D Money for those sponsorships. And any last words that you want to say here?
Well, yeah. First, I want to thank you guys for getting a sponsorship. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah. We
let's
will be
promote.
we'll be a sponsor at the affiliate ball. So yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see your logo up really big on the screens. We're going to promote you hard starting now until after the party. So you'll
Yeah.
get a ton of exposure. So I thank you guys, and I'm proud to be a part of your group. And I think what you guys are doing is super cool. And, there's certain traits of affiliates. And I listened to your interview yesterday, by the way, or your own little monologue you were
Yeah.
doing. And I was impressed because, you really get it. You get what affiliates want to know and what makes a successful affiliate. And I can say, as being an old school affiliate guy myself, you have those traits, and it's nice to see the younger generation of affiliates like you guys really kind of taking the torch and doing some good things. And I'm excited to see what you guys are going to build.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It means a lot from, coming from a veteran like you for sure. And yeah, I can't wait for Vegas. Can't wait to have fun and have a blast out there. So thanks for coming on, and thanks for sharing your story with everybody. And I think everybody, got a lot of value out of this. So yeah, thanks for everything, and looking forward to catching up and seeing you in Vegas.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Appreciate it, Tyler.
Awesome, man. Talk soon.